What's up, everybody? Paul here with Road Trip Tiny Trucker. Today, we're going to analyze why Tow Piglet went out of business. Now, before I get into this, a quick disclaimer. First off, I've seen some very alarming comments that say, hey, Tow Piglet went out of business. All these people are analyzing why he went out of business. I'm subscribing from anyone that analyzes why he went out of business. That's an awful, awful, awful way of running business. If you're a business owner and you believe that you should unsubscribe from anyone that has criticism on why one of the biggest names in hotshot went out of business, you have no business running a business. Period. Get out of it. Get rid of your truck. Go drive for somebody else. That is alarming. That is scary. That people would say, I'm going to unsubscribe from anybody criticizing Alex. You need to know. This is one of the biggest names who went out of business, and you need to analyze why that happens so you don't make the same mistakes. That is incredible to me that people have actually said that they would unsubscribe from people that are analyzing why one of the biggest names in the non-CDL hotshot world has gone out of business. That's incredible. So sell your truck. I'm sorry, sell your truck. You need to analyze these things. Celadon went out of business last year. I was reading everything I could to figure out why in the world did one of the biggest trucking companies go out of business? Why did Celadon just close its doors? You need to know these things. That is absolutely incredible to me that that people would say that. So the second thing, Tow Piglet and I, Alex and I know each other personally. We get along very well. We talk a lot. I like talking to him. We bounce ideas off each other. I would never say that any of this, what I'm saying here, is in spite, is an A. I didn't want to see him fail. I would have loved to see him succeed. I tried to give him my opinions and my own advice, and some of it was right and he agreed with. Some of it was wrong and he disagreed with. So I'm not trying to bash on the guy. I'm just trying to analyze why he went out of business. So I have my thoughts here, and I just want to go through them with you guys. So number one, and this is I think the biggest, is I think he grew too fast. He loves to say how the insurance company put him out of, basically put him out of business. But I think that was his own fault. And let me explain that. I have a different relationship with my insurance broker and insurance company. I call them all the time. For example, I have 2 new trucks coming in next year. Before I bought those trucks, I called my insurance. Hey, I'm looking at growing. This is what I'm planning on doing. Planning on adding these 2 trucks. Do you see any problems with this? Do you see anything I need to be focused on? Is this okay? Can I grow this fast? And then I call every month. How are we looking? What's everything? Everything's going good? Okay. And my insurance rates have gone down. I'd like to point that out. My insurance rates have gone down. I have a good relationship with them, and I'm growing within their parameters that they're comfortable with. And I value that, because if they're basing their growth rates off of statistics, right, and they see the companies that go out of business based on their growth, and they see that one of the things is trucking companies grow broke. I heard that when I was researching starting this company. I talked to a lot of business owners, and they said, don't grow broke. Don't grow so fast that you can't control it and you end up going out of business. And I think Alex did that. I think he grew broke. And I'll get a little more into that as we go on. So number one, he grew too fast. Number 2, he was focused on growth. I disagree with his disagreement of an analysis I just watched. So one guy analyzed why he went out of business, and Alex did a rebuttal. And Alex believes that there is a difference, or that there's a fixed difference between what you gross and what you net. When you gross more, you net more, right? I disagree. I wholeheartedly disagree. I think that margin he ate up. I think that margin went away. And I think it went away in inefficiencies. I think it went away in, is growing too fast. His insurance went up. All of these things affected his bottom line. Fuel mileage will affect your bottom line. What you get per mile, what you're bringing in, what you're grossing does matter. It does matter. But both of them have to be taken into account. And I think that his margin went to zero. I believe that there are 2 stages of a business. This is my thought. This is the way I run a business. I believe that there should be growth and there should be optimization. And you should kind of, I'm not saying it's 100% either way. You should always be optimizing. You should always be looking at growing. But there should be heavy periods of growing. I think you should grow when things are bad, because I think that's when you get your best deals on trucks and trailers. That's when you have more negotiating power. That's when the market has more things on the market. So I think you should grow during the bad times, and then during the good times when everyone else is scrambling to try to get trucks and trailers because the going's good, that's when you should be making hay. You should make hay when the sun shines. You should be rocking and rolling. You should be focusing on optimizing your trucks that you do have and your equipment that you do have during that time. And that will, and increasing those margins. That should be your time. You should be increasing those margins, getting your costs down and getting your gross up. Those are your two focuses. The bigger that margin, the more you net. And I don't think he did that. I think he was focused solely on growth. He truly believed that you just had to grow to make money. And I don't believe that. You do have to grow, but it shouldn't be your sole focus. So that's my opinion on that. I do disagree with, and I agree with the guy that did the analysis on that yeah, he was focused too heavily on gross. I probably net more needed last year with 3 trucks, and I gross far less than needed. But I net more because my margins were larger. The market. So the market is bad right now, and I think compounding on top of everything else, that's one of the things that knocked him out. Tow Piglet, Alex, is a non-CDL hotshot company, and that industry has been inundated by people that have no clue what they're doing. And more so than the big rig world, because a big rig you have to be able to get financing for, or have $40,000, $50,000 in a bank account to go buy a truck. And it's much harder to get financing and or have that amount of money in the bank account to get a semi, right? And these people that say, oh yeah, $40,000 semi is just as good as a brand new pickup, you're completely wrong. I'm sorry. I just bought a brand new 1.1 million mile truck. It's had a rebuild. It's an awesome truck, don't get me wrong. But I've already put $5,000 into completely rebuilding the front end, kingpins, shackles, springs, tie rod ends. Everything in that front end has been replaced. It's going to eventually need injectors. It's going to need a turbo. There are plenty of things that are going to go wrong with that truck, and they're very high cost. Big rigs cost a lot to get work done. They're at least double on everything than a smaller truck. So, the bigger world, I think, keeps a lot of people out that are doing the non-CDL game. And I think the non-CDL game is what's driving the rates down. I got news for you guys. Big companies don't drive rates down. You do. Small companies are. You guys taking this freight for the crap rates, LTL companies aren't touching it. That's why they're moving in on hotshots. It's so cheap. They're getting hotshots for cheaper than it is just to call up ABF and have them move it as an LTL. That is the reason why that market is so bad. I mean, it's bad in general, but it's really bad for non-CDL hotshot. The market, that compounding with everything, I think is another reason he went out of business. And then the last thing, I think he had too many irons in the fire without having proper plans and procedures in place. When I grow, before I grow, I try to plan everything out. For example, when I'm just driving for myself, I don't need a booklet of procedures on different things. How to run your ELD, how to fuel at the pump using your fuel card, how to blah, 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 blah. Why? Because it's all up here. I do it all. I know it. I learned it myself, and then I just do it. But as I hired drivers, I knew I can't just rely on them to figure stuff out. So I had to develop that stuff myself. And with that comes inefficiency. With that, with new drivers, with growth comes inefficiency, and your margins get a little smaller. No matter what, as companies get bigger, they get more inefficient. That's just how it happens. You've got too many. Once you start including more and more people, you just start getting more and more inefficiencies. And I think that he had too many irons in the fire and too much stuff going on and too much growth and too many extracurricular things without having the proper management plans in place to accommodate them. Just my opinion. And so now what did he do right? Because he did do a couple things right in my opinion, and I disagree with a guy that I watched that was analyzing him. He leased his trucks. Absolutely right thing to do. In fact, the wrong thing to do with Hotshot is buy a truck. Period. Your trucks aren't designed for it. They are not designed for what they're being used for, and they break down a ton. Now you'll always hear the anecdotal story of this guy who ran 1 million miles, blah blah. That's anecdotal. I don't care about anecdotes. I care about the real world. And the real world, these trucks do not last. Okay, these Hotshot trucks do not last. They are not designed for what they're being used for, and there are tons of issues with them. His plan of leasing 21 to 23 cents a mile, there is nobody running an owned truck for that cheap. You might think you are, but you're not doing the math right. I'm sorry, you're just not. You're not including depreciation or interest if you have it financed. It's paid off, doesn't cost me anything. Yes, it does. Costs you maintenance, costs you downtime. Your trucks has downtime. His trucks virtually never had downtime because he was trading them in at 70,000 miles. There's not much downtime you're going to have in the first 70,000 miles of a truck. 250, you're down. That's loss of income. That's loss of revenue. You've got maintenance, more repairs, less fuel efficiency for the most part. That tends to, there's some arguments to be said there, but less capacity. If you think that you are running a truck for less than 25 cents per mile, and that when I say that, I mean maintenance, fuel, truck price, depreciation. Not fuel. Sorry, that does not include fuel. Maintenance, truck, all that stuff. Basically, everything around the operation of the truck, everything that his lease covered. Your numbers are wrong. Period. I'm sorry, they just are. I challenge anybody to prove me wrong on that. I will find where you are missing or completely ignoring something. So leasing his trucks was absolutely the right thing to do. Big rig, it's not. The numbers don't work. Why? Because the big rig lease programs are not near as good as that enterprise lease program he was doing. They have all sorts of stipulations. You hold onto the trucks for a lot longer. I think they're like 600 or 6-year leases or something like that. You hold onto the trucks forever. They're a traditional lease. They're not a rental. I mean, let's be realistic. The long-term leases were just long-term rentals for enterprise. And the rental price of a semi is astronomical. It's way higher than it costs to buy. So in the semi world, it doesn't make sense. But in the pickup truck world, absolutely makes sense. That was the right call, in my opinion. And then the other thing, this is smaller, was that he ran new equipment. He always bought new trailers. And yeah, they were big Texas, which arguably are probably one of the worst on the market, but they were new. I would take a brand new big Tex over a 10-year-old load trail. So any day of the week. So big, running new equipment, minimizing that downtime. I think those were good things that he did. My biggest problem, my biggest things are those four deals. I think he grew too fast and not with his insurance. I believe that he focused too much on gross without realizing, because he believed that cost, the difference between those margins were fixed. And it's just not the case. If you're continuing to grow with zero margin, there's no margin in there, growth isn't going to do anything. 0 times a million is still 0. And then the market definitely played into it. The market is horrible right now. If you're planning on starting right now, you really need to reevaluate your business plan or develop one, because you probably haven't developed one if you're thinking about starting right now. Fuel is crazy. I wait till the spring. Wait till the spring and see what fuel does and see what the market's doing in the spring, because it's bad right now and it gets worse over the winter. It's traditionally worse over the winter and it's bad in the summer. That's not good. And then I think he had too many irons in the fire. Now, I think Alex will be around. I would definitely keep an eye on him. I think something's gonna hit. He's too smart a guy. He's too intelligent. Something's gonna hit. So we're gonna keep this under 15 minutes, guys. Like and subscribe. I'm sorry if some of the content is kind of dry. I'm a nerd, so it's all numbers to me. And we'll talk to y'all next time.